Slaves don't try to reform the plantation. They try to get off. They don't try to get reparations. Their goal is escape, nullification, and separation. The various parts of the former Soviet Union and the Warsaw Bloc are examples of this. When the USSR fell apart, the Ukrainians didn't start demanding equal representation or equal rights or any of that. They demanded separation, to have their own area with their own state. So when you look at a movement and wonder if they are legitimately oppressed, ask the question, are they demanding secession? Are they demanding some sort of decentralization, some sort of separation from the central government? If the group in question is demanding more centralized state power and demanding equal representation or some other bullshit, they're not really oppressed. Because what does representation mean? It means to determine how the budget is spent. That's ultimately what it means. It means getting in the powwow and deciding how the budget is spent. To have your group be allowed to block vote in the divvying up of the funds. Now, if your group has some money and your group is a net payer into the pie, and this money is being taken from you and then spent by others, then the sensible solution for your group would be to dissolve the union and separate so that that money can no longer be taken from your group. And other groups may say, well, you're then oppressing others. Well, if you're oppressing others, then they can go separate and form their own state, and we'll stop oppressing you. See how this works? The only reason you'd want to maintain the union is if your group is a net taker from the pie, not a net input. Now, not all of these groups claiming to be oppressed are like this. There are plenty of Aztlan groups who want to separate and form an Aztlan area, and there are some black separatist organizations, so not all are like this. And these people are honest and sincere, but the bulk of black and Hispanic racial agitation involves demanding more representation in the budgetary process, not political separation. We can look at what actual oppressive states do, and that is they have to build walls to keep people in. For example, the Soviet Union had to build walls to keep people in. North Korea had to build walls to keep people in. They have to do things to force people to stay in. The Jim Crow South didn't have to build any walls. And we know that for the overwhelming majority of blacks in the Jim Crow South, the inconvenience of moving outweighed the oppression of the Jim Crow South. This is not my opinion. We know this by their action. Okay. Similarly, did South Africa have to build walls to keep the black South Africans in? No. In fact, apartheid South Africa had an immigration problem, right? The problem was they were getting too many illegal immigrants from the north coming down into South Africa. In fact, 90% of blacks in South Africa today descend from people who immigrated from the northern states. Right, in fact, and so 90% of the black South Africans are actually less indigenous than the white Europeans there. So which kind of puts the lie to the idea of home rule. Well, actually, most of the whites were there first. But that's another thing. And that's actually why apartheid came about, because they had all these illegal immigrants. Well, let's let them stay, but they're not quite citizens like us, and so we'll have kind of a separate judicial system, separate set of laws that's applied to them. They're a separate group. They're not citizens like us, who are the overwhelmingly white Europeans who came in. But there were no walls around them. They weren't trying to prevent people from escaping, right? and the only separatist movements were done by the Boers. Right? I don't know of any black separatist movements in South Africa. If there were a few, there probably were a few, kind of like there are in the U.S. today, but the overwhelming majority of black racial agitation in South Africa was for more representation, was to eliminate apartheid and let them get into the budgetary process, right? Truly oppressed people aren't trying to get into the budgetary process. They're not trying to get something, right? Truly oppressed people are trying to escape.